there. So happy to be here with you. I am Marina Ormes here with your Astro vibe for Thursday, October 20th. This morning, morning Pacific time, maybe closer to noon if you're in the East Coast, the moon goes into Virgo. And so we're looking at that transition between Leo, self-expression, creativity, sharing and shining and needing to be seen and heard and all that, into Virgo, which is Virgo is about being humble, right? Being more focused on the day-to-day, the behind the scenes, not necessarily needing to be seen, but attending to the work that gets things done. So the energy of Virgo and having the moon in Virgo can make us feel a little critical, critical of ourselves. It shows up in other ways that we can be critical. And so today I thought I would share some pro tips for silencing your critical voice. If you happen to have a critical voice, you might know what I'm talking about. And I can say that my tips are pro tips because not only am I an astrologer with almost 30 years of experience and studying what Virgo is all about, but I also have 3 planets in Virgo in my chart. And so I'm very personally familiar with the energy of how that shows up. And so let's take a look at what self-critical thoughts can look like and how we can manage them, how we can deal with them. So when you're being self-critical, it looks like having thoughts about not deserving, not being worthy. I'm not good enough. Who am I to think that I could belong in this world where things are happening or whatever, where things feel important. And why would anyone want to hear what I have to say, right? I don't deserve it. I don't belong. And so any kind of self-critical thoughts that you might have, they're trying to push you down, right? They're trying to protect you from taking up too much space, from being too bold or audacious. Those self-critical thoughts are trying to protect you and say, don't be too this or too that. Don't be too pushy. Don't be too loud. Don't be too whatever. Don't attract attention to yourself. All those kinds of self-critical thoughts are trying to protect you from being hurt, from taking risks, from things that could be dangerous in some way or perceived to be dangerous, right? Our egos believe them to be dangerous, even though maybe there's nothing really that can really hurt us. And so it's kind of an irrational fear, but it can be a big deal. And for many of us who have self-critical thoughts, dealing with these thoughts can hold us back from stepping into our full potential, from expressing our creativity like we've been talking about for the last couple of days, and had some really awesome videos on Tuesday and Wednesday about how to step into creativity more quickly, how to overcome blocks to self-expression, some really potent stuff there. And so we're just building on that to really address these self-critical thoughts that can come up. And they, of course, can come up for all of us. When the moon goes through Virgo, we tend to focus more on the nitty-gritty, on the details, on what's not good enough, what's not right. And that can be helpful, right? Like when we notice what needs to be fixed. And that's why editors and proofreaders often have a lot of Virgo energy, because they have that ability to say, oh, here, this could be better. Let's fix this. Let's notice all these little problems and take care of them. And so Virgo energy can be really awesome that way. But it can also be the thing that shows up telling us that we're not good enough. So how do you silence that critical voice when it shows up? Well, of course, with everything, the first thing is to notice that you're having it, right? That is a critical voice. It's not the truth. It's not like this bigger thing that you should be bowing your head to, right? It's simply a critical voice. That's what it is. Where did it come from? I don't know. Maybe it came from your childhood. Maybe it came from some trauma. Maybe it's just part of the way you operate. But notice that it's there, and put it in its right context of identifying really why it's there. And it is there. It's trying to protect you. But if it's not being of service to you, then let's see how to shift that. Okay, so one way to, especially if you are a person who has this critical voice a lot, or if you notice it while the moon is in Virgo, to remember that it's not you trying to be big and bold. Well, I mean, maybe it is, and that's great, but sometimes something is coming through you. So how are you being of service to what you know how to do, what you're good at? How are you being of service to the world around you? By sharing your skills, your knowledge, your wisdom. How are you holding back from the world if you are listening to that critical voice and not letting yourself be who you are? So we can shift that critical voice to a sense of humility, a really powerful and positive sense of humility, of actual humility. Like, here I am, I'm offering this, I'm doing it so it can be helpful. And that can be a way to shift that critical voice, to see ourselves as being helpful, as being of service, as being the conduit through which some bigger, divine energy is operating, or whatever it is that's coming through us. So really the thing is that when you are being of service, you are a servant to a bigger energy, a bigger purpose, a bigger good, that positive energy that is coming through you. And how can you let go of the critical voice so you can get out of the way, so that energy, that positive, healing, creative energy that's coming through you can be useful. So it's just a reminder to your critical voice that you can't be useful when you're holding yourself back. And so how can you take that energy and let it be more useful, more of service? Ask yourself, what are you being a servant to, right? And some of that energy of being a servant has a lot of negative connotations, can even have traumatic implications for people whose ancestors or maybe past lives have been in servitude, in slavery, and things like that. And so we carry these traumas in our bodies, and remembering that it is actually a gift to be able to be of service, and that we can do that and show up in ways that allow ourselves to be conduits of a greater good. And how can we do that if we're not able to, again, offer our skills, our wisdom, our experiences, our truth, our vulnerability, all those things I was talking about yesterday? So definitely go back and watch that video if you missed it, because self-expression is not just is it good, but it's actually what's healing to the world. It's where our power is. It's how we can show up as agents of healing and change and making the world a better place. So there's a little pep talk, some pro tips for silencing your critical voice. Obviously, you want to first notice it. Notice that it's happening. Notice it for what it is. It's a voice. It's not the truth. It's not something that you should be submitting yourself to. It is rather something that's trying to protect you. And so when you can work with it in healthy ways and recognize that you have something to offer, and that it is healthy for you and it is healthy for the world around you, if you can move through that critical voice and say, thank you for your comments, but I'm going to do what I need to do, and I'm just going to have to be me. And that's it's our birthright to be who we are. So thank you so much for being here. Hopefully that was helpful. Let me know what you think. And if you have a critical voice and how you work with that, what is helpful to you. So thanks again for being here. We've got some eclipses coming up next week, just a few days where we're in that waning last quarter of the moon's cycle in Libra, looking at relationships. And so as we head into that eclipse, if you're looking for any insight into how that's going to show up for you in your chart, you can get a mini reading. You can order it at astrologyheals.com. And I'll give you a recording, 10-minute recording about how the eclipse energy is showing up for you personally. If you have any questions about anything I'm talking about in these videos and how it shows up for you personally in your chart, like if this topic of critical voice really rang true for you and you'd like to know more about how that shows up in your chart and ways for you personally to work with it, you can ask for that. You can ask that specific question in your mini reading. So when you complete the form, just go ahead and say, I'd like to know more about the critical voice in my chart, or whatever it is that you want to know more about. And I'll just focus on that when I'm recording your mini reading, if that's what you want. So thank you again so much for being here and for your support and your likes and comments and subscribing to my channel. And I will be here again. So see you next time. Bye for now.